When Andrade El Idolo reappeared on AEW Dynamite's 6th anniversary show and stunned the wrestling world by attacking former AEW World Champion Kenny Omega, the wrestling universe instantly buzzed. For months, fans speculated about Andrade's next move after his WWE exit. But returning with a high-impact ambush and aligning with the Don Callis Family signaled he was back to make a major statement, not just as a fleeting cameo, but as a key player. One person who has publicly examined the ramifications of that return is Nic Nemeth, known to many as Dolph Ziggler in WWE and now a notably vocal presence in pro wrestling discourse. On Busted Open Radio, Nemeth analyzed Andrade's timing, his positioning within AEW's hierarchy, and, most importantly, what this move could mean for Omega's future and for AEW's booking direction. Who is Nic Nemeth and why his opinion matters? Nic Nemeth brings a unique insider's perspective. Having wrestled at top tiers and participated in both WWE and independent scenes, he understands both in-ring psychology and backstage decision-making. His commentary is not just fan speculation, it springs from being part of the wrestling ecosystem. So when Nemeth shares analysis, it carries weight in the fan community and among industry watchers. When he speaks about Andrade's return, it's not as a passive observer, he's someone who understands how momentum, faction dynamics, and narrative placement can make or break a wrestler's second act. The return, lights out, ambush, and alignment. To fully understand Nemeth's perspective, let's break down what Andrade did and how he did it. 1. Timing and platform. On October 1, 2025, AEW celebrated its 6-year milestone. The anniversary show was a marquee night, perfect for shock returns and memorable angles. Andrade chose exactly that moment to reinsert himself into the conversation. 2. The attack on Kenny Omega. After a high-emotion promo by Omega following a match, the arena lights went out. When they returned, Andrade stood in the ring and launched an attack. That kind of brutality, catching Omega off guard, immediately establishes Andrade as more than just a returning guest. It paints him as a threat. 3. Joining the Don Callis family. Andrade didn't just come in swinging. He joined what's increasingly becoming a major heel faction in AEW. The Don Callis family offers structure, built-in enemies, storyline support, and faction warfare, all of which elevate Andrade's return from a one-off shock spot to long-term storytelling potential. In the words of Nemeth, greater than, the Don Callis family is a big-ass group, so it's easy to get lost. If you can get 1 or 2 or 3 people in serious positions, Andrade did lights on, lights off, and beat his ass. He suggests that this is not a random insertion, this is deliberate. The attack wasn't just for shock, it's the opening salvo in a feud, likely with Omega, and potentially further. What Nic Nemeth sees, the implications. Nemeth's core observations about what this return signals can be grouped into 3 major axes. 1. Immediate elevation through confrontation. By going at Omega first, Andrade bypasses lesser opponents and jumps straight into a marquee feud. That's risky, but it's also the way to fast-track relevance. Nemeth sees it as a sign that AEW, or Andrade's team, believes they have a big plan. If Andrade had come in slowly, taking on mid-carders first, it would have suggested tentative booking. Instead, targeting Omega is saying, I'm here to move in on the top. 2. Faction backing is critical. Joining Callis faction matters more than people might think. Factions help absorb risks, create multiple angles, and allow for backup in storylines or matches. Nemeth warns that in groups as large as the Callis crew, it's easy for talent to get lost. But if Andrade is going to make waves, his spot inside the faction must be elevated, not just as another foot soldier. He must be positioned to stand out. 3. Booking intent. Long game versus short flash. Nemeth poses the question, does this signal a long-term push for Andrade, or is it just a flash in the pan? He leans toward believing AEW wants to do something with Andrade this time, making his return meaningful rather than temporary. The way Andrade emerged, not cautiously but boldly, suggests the creative team has bigger things planned. In Nemeth's words, greater than, it might be going right to Kenny Omega, that goes to show, maybe we're going somewhere with this guy. So far, the narrative is set, Andrade versus Omega could be the cornerstone of his second AEW act. What this means for Kenny Omega. Omega is no small target. Consider, he's a Grand Slam champion holding multiple AEW titles, international, tag, Trios, World one of AEW's most decorated performers. He's built a legacy and prestige that few in AEW match. He's a narrative anchor. Even without this feud, he is a threat and presence in AEW's hierarchy. So Andrade's attack is audacious. It places Omega in a position where he must respond, escalate, and reassert dominance. For Omega, this might mean 1. He must defend, not just respond. Falling back would look weak. 2. Creative storytelling pressure. The feud needs to have layers: betrayals, faction warfare, stipulation matches. 3. Risk and reward. If Andrade succeeds or even looks strong, Omega's status could get diminished in perception, so Omega must win big to maintain his aura. Thus, Nemeth's framing is that Andrade wants to wrestle not just in matches but in legacy, and by targeting Omega, he's gunning for narrative weight, not just wins. Broader impacts in AEW booking and landscape. Beyond wrestlers themselves, this return and attack ripple outward in multiple ways across AEW's booking grid. Rewriting power dynamics. Andrade's sudden return shakes up the existing pecking order. Guys who were mid to upper mid might get repositioned. Faction warfare intensifies. With Callis Group gaining a major addition, faction rivalries, e.g. The Elite, Jericho's group, etc., can become more layered. Fresh matches, fresh stories. Andrade's hit list publicly teased suggests he's not limited to Omega. He may target names like MJF, Will Ospreay, Jon Moxley, and others. That opens multiple feuds, merchandising and hype. Returns like this carry marketing potential. Surprise returns, hit lists, faction infighting all play into social media momentum. Risk in execution. The flip side is creative misfires. If Andrade is mishandled, if he loses too often early or is overshadowed within the faction, the return may backfire. Nemeth essentially argues, this is a high-reward, high-risk booking move, and the next months will reveal if the push is real. Fan and industry reaction so far. Fans and analysts have already reacted strongly to the return. Speculation around Andrade's hit list has become rampant. Who else is on the target roster besides Omega? MJF, Will Ospreay, and Jon Moxley are frequently floated. Many praise the boldness. Some question whether Andrade has enough momentum or fan investment to sustain a long-term push. Omega's reaction was cool, terse. He responded on social media with greater than all these post-match beatdowns, plus a gif. That minimalism could signal he's letting the spotlight burn on Andrade's return, forcing Andrade to generate heat and momentum rather than chasing chatter. Wrestling media outlets are already treating this as a major angle, not a sideshow. The coverage is heavy, which suggests AEW and Andrade are being taken seriously. Potential scenarios and predictions based on Nemeth's lens. Let's speculate in light of Nemeth's insights. 1. Omega vs. Andrade is a marquee feud. Expect them to clash in several high-profile matches, perhaps with stipulations, no disqualifications, steel cage, etc., to settle the intensity. 2. Faction betrayals, shifting alliances. Andrade's position in the Callis family could be tested. Maybe he breaks out, or someone challenges his status. Faction members might clash internally or get involved in the feud. 3. Hit list come to fruition. After or interwoven with the Omega angle, Andrade may go after the other names publicly teased. That could lead to cross-promotional stories, surprise returns, or wildcard matchups. 4. Momentum check. Andrade must show dominance. To validate his return, Andrade will need wins, ideally big ones. If he loses too often early, the buzz dies. But if he remains credible, he could elevate toward title contention. 5. Omega's counter story. Omega may pivot to go on offense, building a narrative of being hunted and then turning predator. His past legacy gives him story tools. He can talk about protecting AEW, defending prestige, etc. In short, the booking has to maintain balance, elevate Andrade without weakening Omega's aura. That's a challenging but exciting task. Why this move is important and risky. Here's why the move is being watched so closely. For Andrade, it's a second chance to define his AEW legacy. His first run had ups and downs. This return could reset perceptions. For AEW, using major surprise angles keeps the product fresh. But overuse of shock returns can devalue the impact. They need to follow through. For Omega, maintaining top-tier status means responding conclusively. A misstep here could lessen his gravitational pull in future angles. For fans, This kind of high-stakes storytelling builds investment. Fans want to see whether Andrade can fulfill promise, they want Omega to fight back. Nemeth's framing is that this moment demands follow-through. A spectacular entrance isn't enough, the narrative must sustain, escalate, and deliver consequences.